Hi everyone, my name is Emily Broden. I'm an assistant athletic trainer at the University of Richmond and a member of the Virginia Young Professionals Committee. When I first joined the committee, I knew I wanted to do something for the new grads because I just couldn't imagine going through COVID as a new grad and wanted to help in any way I could. I put together a panel of Virginia athletic trainers to answer questions sent in by many new grads. Before we get started, I just wanted to say congratulations to all the new grads out there for finishing your athletic training degree in the middle of a pandemic. That is an incredible feat, and you should all be so proud of yourselves. And I know you have questions. I know I did when I first graduated. So, to get started, let's meet your panelists.
Brandon Nelson. I have been certified for 1 year. I went to the Shenandoah University, and I now work at Hampton-Sydney College in Farmville, Virginia.
Hello, my name is Lucas Bianco. I am an athletic trainer, and I work in the industrial setting at a paper mill outside of Lynchburg, Virginia. 7 years. I graduated from Lynchburg College first with my bachelor's degree. I then went on to the University of Nevada, Las Vegas to receive my master's in science degree, and then finished with my doctorate of athletic training degree from University of Idaho in 2018.
My name is Emily Myrle. I am a graduate assistant athletic trainer through George Mason University. I work at Herbert J. Saunders Middle School through the Achieve Project at George Mason. I am the only athletic trainer there, but they've had one for 5 years, so it was a nice transition. And I have been certified for just like about a year. So I got certified in, probably June of 2019 when I completed my undergraduate at the University of South Carolina.
Scott Johnson. I'm actually the Associate Athletic Director. I've been at Old Dominion. I'm in my 33rd year now at this point. I started as an assistant athletic trainer here and worked my way up, and now I'm in charge of the sports medicine department. I've been in District 3 my entire professional career. I did spend 1 year at Virginia Military Institute before coming here to Old Dominion University.
I'm Erin Cash. I work at Virginia Tech. I'm the women's basketball athletic trainer, and this will be my 5th season coming up.
Emily Whitaker. I also work at Virginia Tech. I am a graduate assistant in my 2nd year, and I work with women's soccer.
Hello, my name is Mary Patrizzi. I'm an assistant athletic trainer at Christopher Newport University. CNU is a D3 collegiate setting. I've been certified now for 1 year. I'm a graduate of Shenandoah University's Master of Science in Athletic Training program, and for undergrad, I'm a graduate from James Madison University with a degree in dance.
How do I get involved in the athletic training community?
First, go to the website for that state. So the VAT has a great one if you're looking to go to VAT. Any of the other states have great websites, so look into those. Also check out the NATA news at the part where they talk about the 10 districts, because a lot of times your state will be mentioned in there, and then you'll start to figure out some people that would be good people to interact with. And then finally, talk to your coworkers and find out which ones of those are engaged, and try to follow their lead and get going that way.
So, I, in undergrad, was obviously in South Carolina. I got involved in the Student Senate while I was there, so I was thankful to have a little bit of a connection throughout the district. But my biggest suggestion would be to, before you move to a new state, talk to the people that you know in your state already, so your professors, your preceptors, other athletic trainers, about the organizations which you want to get involved in. So if you want to get involved in the Young Professional Committee, talk to maybe a young professional who may not be a part of the committee but has heard of it, or one of your teachers who's been involved or volunteered through them. So if you're talking to people in your current state, they might say, oh, well, I have someone you can contact. And then before you're even there, you have that initial foot in the door contact person, so that you don't get there and you're like, well, now I know nobody. So my biggest thing would be to talk to people that you already know and get that connection, so that you go in feeling like you do know somebody and that you can have that conversation. Then my other thing would just, again, don't forget about the district committees. I feel like too many times people in general, professionals in general, but especially young professionals, are like, well, I'm not even involved in the state. Why would I get involved in the district? And it's just not the case. I have not had the opportunity to get involved in the South Carolina or Virginia state specific because of school. But again, like I am still a part of the MATA student senate. So don't be afraid to reach out to the district committees because they may have a position for you where a state may not. So don't be afraid to it's not overstepping to go to the district. You can, they're even, and you can go to either one.
That starts for the staff that you go on. So once you get into a new place, you have to reach out to the people who have been there for a longer amount of time because they already have some set resources for you. And they also know more people in the area. So I start with the head athletic trainer of wherever you are or whoever is seen as like the highest person, whether if you're in a clinic setting, and start with them and talk to them about what groups you can get into. There's also so many Facebook groups now too that you can like get on those in your area, and that way you get things going on in your area and more people to connect with that way.
What should I look for in a job as a new grad?
This was kind of hard for me. I believe that, internships are great. And I think that they provide a lot of resources, especially if you're thinking about going to a D1 university or maybe professional. So I think that, when looking at a first job, you need to know that you're good enough to be an assistant from wherever program that you graduate from. So I think, looking at what the job entails, where it's going to be located, and also just kind of do your research on the staff as well, and see if those are people that, could potentially have a really big influence on your career.
The piece of advice I'd like to give new grads is don't think that the first job you're going to get is going to be your dream job. But hopefully what you're looking for will satisfy you for the time being. And I think every job is a learning experience. You might think you want something. You get to this job, it might not be exactly what you want. You might want to move in a different direction as you go forward. So I think you need to have an open mind, but understand that that first job is probably not going to be where you end your career. That would be very, rare to see somebody stay at one place in the same job for a long, long period of time. I think you need to be flexible. I think you need to be have an open mind and be willing to try things that might not be in your comfort zone if it's within this new job. Because everything you do is a learning experience. So I always tell people to keep an open mind. Do what's best for you at that time. You might get one offer, you might get 10 offers. You have to look at what the best situation is for you. And the best situation doesn't always mean the most money or, the most prestigious institution or whatever. It's what's best for you at the time. If you want a small school and that's available, then you might want to look into that. If you'd rather be at a high school, and that's available, then you might want to look into that. So, really my advice is, try not to focus so much on your ideal job and look at what job or what offer brings you the most that you're looking for at that time in your career.
At the point when you become a new grad, you know what you're looking for, even if you don't think you have. So when I graduated, I was like, I have no idea what setting I want to be in. I don't know if I want to go into high school or if I want to be in a college setting. And if I go in a college setting, like which one. But at the end of the day, I really did know. I think I was just scared to admit that I know what I wanted because I didn't want to let myself down after coming so far in a program and then not get the job that I wanted. So I feel like you know what you want. Be true to that. Look for the things that you really want. I knew that I wanted a full-time position. And so I wasn't afraid to apply for those. And yeah, definitely as a new grad, like I didn't get callbacks from a lot of those because I didn't have the experience.
but I did for some. I took a chance and then I ended up getting one, and I'm in the spot I want to be in. So I think you have to just trust your gut on where you need to go and then really go for it and go for it full force.
How should I navigate hiring freezes that are happening across the country?
I haven't really thought about that much because I haven't done that, but I did for this. So I would say consider expanding your searches to residencies and doctoral programs and other types of forms of educations that still get you some experience while some more education to kind of advance yourself. In this time, just in general, what I'm learning as a person is if you can invest right now, it's really valuable if you have time to do that. So if you're lucky enough to be able to do that and don't have to go out and get a job right now, then look to those avenues. If you do need to get a job, consider the multiple new ways athletic trainers are being utilized as far as COVID-19 responses and being part of maybe how universities now revamp what they're doing. So just consider those.
But just for everybody, I feel like that's looking for a job, just be patient. Nobody knows what's happening. No one knows what'll come next, even the universities. So just be patient and just reach out to professionals, stay involved, stay educated, and it'll all work out, hopefully, in the end.
You know, the hiring freeze, I would just tell people to be patient. I can't guarantee that all these positions that, we thought would be open are going to be open at the end of this, because obviously budgets have been impacted quite a bit throughout this process. But I would tell everybody to remain patient and stick to your principles. You might not want, if something comes your way, but it's not something that you want, I would tell you not to settle for a position that you're not going to be happy in. And maintain your contacts that you have. Sometimes word of mouth from professional people within the organization, hey, this might be opening up here, or that might be opening up there. Keep those contacts, because that's a very important way of gaining information, more so than waiting for something to be posted online. I really, that's the best advice I can give, because I have no idea, where we are. We're at a hiring freeze right now, and we're just trying to work through it. Every day, hopefully we'll get more information on to find out when this can end. But right now, we're just trying to work through it.
What advice do you have for the first day on the job?
Embrace being uncomfortable. I think that coming into any new environment is definitely uncomfortable, but you got to just kind of take it in stride and be out of your comfort zone. And I think just confidence, just be as confident as you can be, because if you're not confident, then everyone else is going to see that, and that's going to lead to people not coming to you, or just being awkward in general. And I think just being a good person, as long as you invite people in and talk to people, then I think you'll have a good first day.
It's definitely scary, especially as a young person walking into this big school. I was like, I don't really know. But the biggest thing that I was told and that I did was just introduce yourself to everybody. And always introduce yourself. I learned this at conferences: first name, last name, and position. So if you're just walking to say, hi, I'm Emily, and then walk away, people aren't going to remember who you are. So always say first, last name, and title, so that people know your name and know what you're there for, and that you're not just a person walking through. And don't just do this to the administration and the nurse and the athletic director and people that you're going to work with. Do this to the amazing people that deal with all the crazy stuff in the front office, and the custodians who will probably have to let you into the school once or twice when you lock your keys in the room or somebody shuts the door behind you unknowing. Introduce yourself to everyone so that they know why you're there, they know what your role is, and that you can set up that rapport that you're there for the students and to help them through everything. And then the other thing would be to make your space your own. Even if you're an assistant or you don't really have much of a space, obviously in a middle school, I do not have much of a space. It is a very small closet in the gym that it's not much, but I walked in on the first day and I reorganized things and I put my name up so kids would know, teachers would know, again, who I am, what I'm there for. So just don't be afraid to move stuff around. If you don't like how something looks, move it around. Just because it was there doesn't mean it has to stay there. So don't be afraid to shake things up in the room and make it your own.
Biggest thing is, the first day of a new job should be really exciting. So as much as it can be nerve-wracking and, there's always going to be those nerves and that you don't know what's going on, but just try to remember that it's, a new job. So have fun with it. Introduce yourself to as many people as you can, absorb as much as you can. But at the end of the day, just make sure you're having fun. I know here at Tech, I love all my coworkers. I know Emily will say the same. So those relationships are the biggest piece. So everything else will come. You'll learn the policies and procedures. But just, trying to make those connections right off the bat, I think is the most beneficial.
Of what Erin said, it definitely is an exciting day, but also can be nerve-wracking. But I would encourage to be confident and act yourself, because that's how people are going to see you every day once you start working with them. I know it was important for me to get a good night's sleep before my first day, so I felt fresh and ready to go, and just try to take as much notes as you can and just kind of absorb as much information on that first day.
To ask questions. I mean, I think everybody says that. It sounds so silly, but it's so true. I tell people that all the time when I was interning places, when someone's new, I'd be like, oh, don't afraid, ask questions all the time. And then you get there yourself and you're like, I'm not asking any questions because I want to know what I'm doing. And I don't want anybody to think that I'm bad at my job on my first day. But I mean, you're not supposed to know everything. You're not supposed to know how the documentation system works yet. You have to ask. You aren't going to know where the stat 5s are located. You're not going to know where some of the tape is. It's okay to ask that stuff. But also while you're asking, be receptive to responses. Don't just ask, get your answer, and move on. Ask to know more. So every question you ask and really take it in to find those things. And then also just be open to learning a lot of people's names at one time, because you're going to be meeting coaches, you're going to get athletes, you're just going to be bombarded. So you got to treat it as if any other thing. Stay calm, just take it one step at a time, maybe take the day an hour at a time and just get through it, but also just be excited that you finally got to the place you want to be.
How would you suggest advocating for yourself as a new grad with a master's degree?
Awesome question, right? So the value part, the idea that we are pushing for that even is just a complete paradigm shift from even when I started as an athletic trainer. We were just trying to get out of the, I think it was $12,000 for the year, plus we got a tuition reimbursement type thing. So that was our graduate assistantship, and then that's your first real job or whatever. So we were not thinking hey, how can we get paid what we should be getting paid? We were just thinking man, we just got to do this, get through this. But this is a much better thought. So outcomes are a good idea. Put together possibly monthly, 6-month, and then season reports that demonstrate why you're there, right? So return to play, number of post-ops that you've worked with, in the industrial setting. We get into all the different ideas from the OSHA guidelines of a recordable injury versus not recordable. And then I'm sure there's other metrics that you can use in different settings, and amount of people that were referred and ended up having surgeries, and some of those value numbers. I think the more you put that value number in front of them and how much you're saving or not saving, treatment logs are all good things that people have used in the past. Once you put those out there, you can then say, hey, this is why I'm worth this. I'm not just making up this number. And then the salary surveys.
That's a huge question that a lot of us are still trying to figure out. I think it comes down to your AD and kind of administration, and just making sure that they understand why we're here and what we're doing and why we're doing it. In the college setting, I think that it can be a little easier in the sense that a lot of ADs see us. They can tell what we're doing. They see us on the sideline or on the field. So I know in the high school, sometimes that's a little bit harder, but I think the biggest thing is just understanding, especially with this switch to the master's program, why we did it. So just trying to advocate that the whole point is that, you know, you have your, no matter what, you're going to have your master's degree, and that essentially that you are there to save lives. I mean, that's kind of what it comes down to. We can spin it however we want, but at the end of the day, we're an insurance policy, and you know, if excuse me, if I were them, I would want to make sure that my school is covered, and just trying to, you know, spin it that way. I know that it's probably a little bit hard your very first job to kind of gain leverage, and I understand that, but that just kind of goes back to, you know, starting from the bottom and working your way up and gaining experience and things like that. But to also know your worth. And again, it's a little harder for me. Emily might have a better perspective, but to, you know, to not sell yourself short and not just take a job because it's a job. You know, I was there at one point, I understand, but just trying to think through how that looks on the profession if you take a job that everyone knows is, you know, not respectful or not up to the hard work you've put in, you know, even if it is your first job.
Early in your career, it is important to show that you've gone to school and you've done your undergraduate, you've now gotten a master's degree, and you have worked hard for that. So early on, that can be a little intimidating to kind of advocate for yourself for a higher salary or a salary that's kind of worth your education. But I think talking to people that you look up to and kind of getting their opinion on how to approach those conversations, and then just kind of valuing the aspects of the university and what they can offer.
Do you have any suggestions on interviewing during a pandemic? Any tips on performing well during a Zoom interview?
I think just show your personality. You know, I know it's going to be a little uncomfortable, like the first Zoom call that you have, and you're going to be nervous and probably really anxious, but, you know, just know that you are good enough. You're good enough to accept the position, and you were good enough to graduate from your program, and you're good enough to do this job well. So I think just going into it with confidence and just being yourself, I think that that's going to help the new graduates out a lot.
Prepared. That's the first one. I did not do a good job of that. I'm on my stairs right now because that's the only place I have cool walls. But I did put together some things, and I was going to put these behind me. So these are like cool thank you cards that I remember getting that were kind of valuable in my mind. This is one of my speaker ones. I have my license. This is when I got to speak to. They gave me a cool little thing, which is when you say oh backwards, oh and forward. That's cool. State game. So the point is, like, have fun things up. I think it's okay to have those around and just tell a story and try to share like who you are, right? It's okay to do that. Even though we say you should have like a plain background, but I think the more you start to become a person to them, they know who you are on a piece of paper, but now they want to know who you are as a person a little bit. So there's a way to do that, and there's a way to do it right. And I'm not saying that I know how to do that, but I know that when I listen to sports interviews right now and other interviews on the radio and stuff, they always start saying like, wow, man, I didn't know you had a Brett Favre jersey or something. And they always want to talk about something else around there. So I think that's a good one to consider for these. Also have notes. I have to do some notes, those types of things.
I feel like a lot of us have become almost numb to Zoom interviews, Skype, all that, because we're doing it so much right now with class and meetings and all of these different things. So just make sure that like it's just not another Zoom conversation. Like it's an interview. Treat it like an interview. Get dressed up. Make sure that you're prepared. The biggest thing, because I actually had no in-person interviews when I was applying to GA positions last year. I accepted one off of a Zoom interview a few days later, but I had never gotten to the in-person. So the biggest thing that I did was I made sure I downloaded the app, log on, make sure that you log, and you're not just getting on this app for the first time during the interview because something will go wrong. Your camera won't work. You won't know how to turn the microphone on. So if you have a friend or a colleague or a teacher even send you that meeting link, log on, know how to turn the camera on, make sure they can hear you. And if they don't, find another computer to use, because you don't want to find out the day of. You want to find out the week before so that you can figure it out. Write out answers before, but make sure that you're not just reading off the prompt. There's so many times that it's like, oh, well, I'm on Zoom, they'll never know. They know. I promise you, they know. They can tell whether it's class, whether it's an interview. So like, it's great to have your answers written out, thoughts, ideas written out, but know what you're gonna know, that like you're gonna not say exactly what you said, and it's okay. So go in having an idea, but make sure that you put your own spin on it. Make sure that you're yourself and not just reading off a prompt, because your personality will win you the job more than your straightforward answers to the questions that you think they want to hear.
What do you know now that you wish you knew when you first started?
Probably a lot. Like probably a lot of good stuff that I don't really remember right now. But I wrote down a few. Mentors are out there and they're willing to help. And that was something that I did not take advantage of. And probably am now still trying to do that, right? Find a mentor or be around people that I appreciate and want to emulate and want to work with. But also I feel like there's people that are gravitating to me that way, and I get to be that mentor now. But no matter what, when you start, wherever you are, there are people out there that want to help you. And if you allow them to do that, it'll be good, especially if they're in the setting where they think you, with your new fancy master's degree, professional entry, are maybe a step above, but you're then asking for help. That really kind of levels the playing field, I think. It's a good one. It's
so close to when I started that it's like, well, I'm still getting started. But I think doing things like this, it came out, I had someone reach out to me and I was like, I know that I'm a young professional, but like, I'm a really young professional. And so it's like, I don't really know, like, what would I say? But just taking that leap of faith, saying yes to things that you may not have, log on to those meetings where they come out with especially right now, there's so many virtual meetings. It's like, oh, well, I don't have anything to add. Well, you never know, or you might have something to learn from it. So like, my thing would just be to take that chance. You never know what you're going to get out of it, or what you'll give to somebody in return.
I knew how to approach coaches better, just in all situations. When you're in school, you kind of here and there, it's like, oh, a coach may say this, and then you just continue going back to textbook stuff. There's nothing in a textbook that can prepare you to work with a coach, because they're people too, and they're all going to be different. So I think you just have to think of a strategy for yourself on how you approach coaches. And once you think of your strategy, you got to stick to it. So I was just like, okay, I'm going to stick to the facts whenever I talk to a coach, and that's what I do. But I didn't have a strategy before I started actually talking to them, so I learned it on the fly. So sometimes that can be challenging depending on the kind of conversations you have to have with your coach. But, a challenging conversation is going to come up. You have to know that. So you have to think right now, this is how I'm going to tackle it when it comes up, instead of scrambling at the last second and you're like a fish in the water and that coach is coming like a shark.
Is there anything you wish you would have done differently in your career, and why?
The big thing with this one, I fell into oh my goodness, I need to find a GA position because I need to go to school still. So I applied to, my friends all called me crazy, I think I applied to like 25 graduate positions. Wow. It was insane. So I fell into oh my gosh, is the position apply? Didn't matter where it was, didn't matter what it was about, didn't matter what it was working with. That was not my smartest move. And I realized that as I got deeper into the process, that I was applying to these jobs and they weren't responding, and it was like, well, I don't really care because I didn't want it anyway. So then don't apply. If you don't get a response from a school and it's like, nah, like you shouldn't have applied in the first place probably. So make sure that when you're starting out, when you're finding those jobs, when you're applying to those jobs, like apply to ones that you care about. If you want to work in, personally, again, I want to work with youth sports. So why am I going to apply to a graduate position or a job where all I'm going to work with is collegiate athletics? It just doesn't really make sense. Great, the university may sound great, or the position may sound great on my resume, but it's not going to help me move forward in youth sports at all. So if you want to work as an athletic director, make sure that you're finding something with, leadership in the degree or business. So don't just apply to apply. Make sure that you know what you want and apply to positions that are going to help you get there.
I feel like I'm myself's hardest critic. So like I'm always critiquing myself. I think that I could do evaluations better, communication, I definitely think is a big thing for me. Just communicating with the coaches and communicating with athletes as well. Just letting them, painting a vivid picture for them for the road to recovery and things like that. But yeah, I think evaluations, they can always get better. And, I think the biggest thing for me was the transition for the administration work. That was huge. So I'm trying to definitely get better at that. Yeah.
Just organize things the way that I wanted them organized, as far as paperwork and the way I wanted to set up my daily schedule. I went along, coming into a new place, so I don't want to change anything because I want to kind of conform, like, okay, this is where I work, this is how they do things, I'm going to do it. But it's okay to kind of diverge from that and be like, okay, I'm going to set up my paperwork this way or my files this way. Because I feel like later on, once I was more comfortable, I would have had a better system that worked more for me than me trying to work into the system that was already set for me. So also just they have, like, if your clinic has like an open door policy, which many do, and I think that that's totally fine. But with the amount of athletes I had, I found that it was easier for me to schedule times for them so that way I could give better care. And if I would have done that in the beginning, I feel like I would have been way less overwhelmed than when I had like 5 kids coming in. We only have 5 tables and every other team's in there. So just know that it's okay if you have an idea for how you want to set something, do that right away. And that's fine. And I wish that I would have done that sooner instead of just trying to be another one of the group.
Do you have any suggestions on how to navigate the new world with COVID-19 and policy changes?
The one thing that I have been doing, not as well as I probably could be, but stay engaged on Gather. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, the Den, you might be getting these emails. Those are great areas to kind of just see what other people are talking about and thinking about. And there's been multiple threads on COVID-19. So if you haven't seen these, go in there, search COVID-19, search response to viruses and infections, and then there's just breakdowns of protocols and how we're going to do this, and asking questions and asking ideas. And that's a really good area to just get a good grasp of what everybody else is thinking and doing. Changes are coming into the At Your Own Risk platform, and that'll be a good area to get involved with too if you haven't been on there in a while. There's a new website. They're working on a new website, and then they're upgrading the website to add more public access points to physicians, to parents, to players, to coaches, and some of that stuff. And that's one of our best ways to really demonstrate who we are to the public. And I think that's a good area for us to be aware of.
And if any of us had the answer to this question, we'd be set. But it's going to be one of those ever learning, ever evolving processes, I think, where the world of sports will probably never be exactly like it was before, but maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe there are practices that we needed to update that people have been fighting for. People have been like, well, should we? This will move that forward. So I think we can take a lot of the challenges from it and grow from it in a lot of ways. But the best advice that I have and that I've been trying to do is read everything. And I know there's a lot out there. There's stuff from the NATA. There's stuff from state-specific sport organizations, district-specific, school-specific. There's a lot. There's a lot of people that have a lot of different opinions. And say, okay, I like that, and write it down. Or I really don't think that'll work. And then write why not, so that you can maybe find out something that would work for you. Again, working at a middle school, things like, I don't have a table. So things like, well, you have to wash down the table. Well, I don't have to do that. So, what else will I have to do instead? Well, my kid sat on a bench to get evaluated. Well, I have to wipe off the bench. Like, You have to change it to your specific situation. And so again, I'm outside most of the time, so the kids aren't coming in and out of my room. But are they just going to stand there outside in a line all together in a little group? Well, how are we going to navigate through that? So by reading all of the different statements and policies and procedures and changes that are coming out, you'll be able to better understand what your school or your industrial setting or your clinical setting may need in order to navigate through the changes when sports do come back. And then my other thing is fight for a spot at the table. Too many places, I think, are coming out with these policies and procedures, and they haven't asked if it's going to work. They just say, well, this sounds good. So then they put it out, and it's like, okay, but practically. And they're like, we thought that was practical. So make sure that your voice is there, even if it's not at every meeting, even if it's not every time that they sit down and talk. Make sure that your medical opinion is being heard, because it means something. And if they put out policies and procedures without that being heard, it's not going to work, because they don't truly the administration does not fully understand, and that's okay. It's not their job to fully understand, but it's their job to hear you. So make sure that they do.
If I had suggestions on how to navigate, the world of COVID-19, yeah, I'm just trying to live day to day and try to figure out, what's the best way to get through each day. I think the athletic training world is going to look different from what we've known it in the past. What those differences are right now, I don't have all the answers. You take a problem, or not a problem, but a situation like social distancing and limiting of people in areas. Well, many of us have facilities that might not be that big, so you might have to limit the amount of people that are in there. The times of maybe a student athlete just walking in and being able to get a treatment, we don't know if that's going to change. It looks like it might at the beginning. It might, after time goes by, might go back to the way it was. But, we're just working on what we have to go by day. So, yes, the athletic training world is changing. How drastic those changes are going to be when this is all said and done, I don't know. Hopefully, we can get back to a way of doing things that we're all comfortable with, that we all know. But again, like I stated before, this is completely new for all of us in this profession. And we're really all just trying to navigate through, trying to do the best for our student athletes, to try to do the best for our institutions or wherever we work, to, so that we can get through this. Hopefully we can get back to sports and athletics. But, it really is a day-to-day thing, because things change, each day, and we have to make those adjustments on the fly.
How do you navigate a relationship between athletic trainer and strength and conditioning?
From day one, to be making those relationships with the support staff, because we are going to be working with them on a daily basis. And I think communication is a big piece with that, of you need to share your portion of communication with them, but not telling them what they need to specifically be doing in their field. So that would be my big point with that, is just making those relationships early on. And then we have, I think here at Virginia Tech, we use great forms of communication to kind of work with those different groups.
Yes, I agree. Communication's number one. I'm super lucky. I feel like I can't not say Greg Werner's name. I've had the best strength coach in the entire world. I hope every athletic trainer has that at some point, where we really just work off of each other. There's not really a decision that's made without both of our input. So that's ideal, but I understand that that's, not everyone's case. I get that. But I think exactly what Emily said, communication, and not when there's a problem. Make sure you start at day one, make sure it's, daily. See, if you can, try to see how they like things. So if you're a texter, but they are an in-person, where can you kind of meet in the middle? Or can you just be in person for X amount of time until you establish that relationship? Same goes with coaches, you know, team physicians, sports psych. At the college level, you will deal with a ton of different people. So just being respectful, trying not to have an ego, but also standing your ground when you need to. I mean, I think we'd be remiss if we say that, you're going to agree with every single person along the way, but just being respectful in how you talk to people, and just trying to keep in mind the relationship that you need to build to go forward while still having the athlete's best interest in mind.
Of working with other people in athletics, I think that you always have to be like, know who has what specialty, know that you're not always the best one, and that's fine. That's why we're on a sports medicine team. That's why I'd include so many people. For me, I find the best way to work with them is just having in-person conversations with them, because that way nothing gets lost in detail, nothing gets lost in translation where, they're not understanding what you're wanting or you think you can have a conversation. Having a conversation with them, all the natural questions start to pop out, and then you can have more of a conversation to find new things. With our strength and conditioning people, there's sometimes where your rehab, once you get to a level where they're more functional, they might need or know more than you do to get them back on the field. So why not utilize that resource? Don't be afraid to reach out to them.
Do you have any advice on continuing education?
Great question, because I know I was not thinking about this last year when I was getting ready to graduate. But obviously, again, classes. If you're not, maybe you went and got a job straight out. Fantastic. I'm biased because of my work with the MATA Student Senate, I think, a little bit. I've gone to the district meeting now 4 years in a row, and they're wonderful. They give you your CEUs, you get your EBPs, and you get to network, meet new people that you never have before. If you want to get involved in those committees like the YP committee or EDAC, anything, literally anything, there's somebody there for you to talk to. So there's so many different facets that the state, district, national meetings provide for you, in addition to your CEUs. Obviously, they're expensive. Can't always go travel. So other than that, again, the ASAP one is a great run right now. I have never obviously done it before until this time, but it is a great free EBP class about research and all sorts of different, again, bias and writing. And so that's one to look for. And then if you're an NATA member, obviously they give you some free CEUs every year. Just a little hint, trick that I do personally. I ask for my NATA membership for Christmas every year, because you renew it in January. You're getting it right before it's renewed. You'll be okay without that extra pair of shoes or that outfit. It's too many people say, well, it's too expensive. There's ways that you can work it into your budget. So again, my aunt, every year, she goes, what do you want? I'm like, I'll just send you the link. And she buys me my NATA membership so that I can get all the great benefits that come with it. So maybe, until you're able to afford it more, or it works more into your budget, that might be a good idea for some new graduates to consider, to help them with their CEUs and other benefits like the job board and things like that.
Going to NATA, I know that that's not in everyone's budget, but I just, I love the connections. I think that there's so many options. They do a great job to try to get every level. And so that's kind of my go-to. I also work basketball, so my season's pretty long. June is about the only month that I sometimes don't see my kids. So that just makes it a little bit easier. But Marin with the YP did an awesome job of setting up a free CEU site. So definitely check that out if you can. Right now, I would say a silver lining of COVID is almost everything is free. So I've done a ton of symposiums and webinars, and CATS just offered their symposium for free. So if you can be looking through those, there's really some great opportunities there. I think those will probably start going away a little bit. So you might have to get a little more creative. But if you can, obviously BATA or your district. But I just think there's something special about in person. I think that, you know, networking is so huge in our profession that that's really the best way you can get one-on-one. The other thing is, again, more college setting instead of high school, but if your college can become a CEU provider, again, here at Virginia Tech, we're really lucky. So we, our team physicians put a lot of things on for us that count for CEU. So if you can, you know, look into that, maybe you're a high school, but you're close to a college that offers that, you know, try to reach out and network because I'm sure the college wouldn't mind you coming to, you know, sit in.
How do you have a good work-life balance?
I think I'll say burnout is real. I think that having a work-life balance is crucial. So, you know, after you're done work, you know, don't continue to work or continue to look at emails or, you know, sometimes your mind is going to continue to run and think about what you could have done better in the day, or at least mine does, that you could have done better in the day and, you know, that you got this wrong, but you got this right. And I mean, you're not going to know everything. But I think the biggest thing is, you know, when you go home, like do something that isn't stressful. You know, do something that you love to do, go home and cook, you know, try and on the weekends, if you have weekends off, you know, go out and do something outside or just do things that you love and hang out with family. I think that's big. So I think, you know, you gotta, once you leave the office, you have to stop working, because if you continue to work, then it's just gonna lead to more stress, maybe more anxiety, and it's just not gonna be a good situation. So, and I find that at the D3 level has been really great, because, you know, as we work hard, and we do what we have to do, but at the same time, when we leave, you know, I go home and I do whatever, and I'm not trying to think about work. So I think that that's something that, you know, when you get higher up in different levels, D1, professional, things like that, it's hard to do. I feel like sometimes, but, you know, people do it all the time. So I think it's just finding something that you love to do and, you know, trying to cut off after you leave work.
There's been more focus on work-life balance. And one of the things that I try to do each day is I try to leave work at work, you know, not bring the issues home. I still work a long week, but I feel like I have balance, and I think everybody needs to find that balance that works for them. And it's really something that new people should talk to their employers about. And if the employer doesn't mention something like work-life balance in an interview, then they should bring it up, because I believe it's very important. And I truly try to have my staff understand that I don't expect this to consume their whole life, this job. I want them to have work-life balance. There might be times where the work life is more than the home life, but then there's other times where, you know, the season might not be as demanding, where the home life could be more demanding than the work life. You know, it's really, I think as athletic trainers, as people, we need to recognize symptoms. You mentioned the mental health that we're struggling, and, you know, you need to talk to people about it. Talk to your employer if you know you're struggling. Don't just try to sweep it under the rug. You know, don't just try to suck it up, because I think that's what happened to us old people a long time ago. We just try to suck it up and deal with it. And that's not necessarily the way to do it. I think people are aware that burnout is a real thing within our profession. And, you know, if you start recognizing the symptoms, or recognize the symptoms of somebody who you're working with who might be struggling with that, you need to bring it to the attention of maybe the supervisor or whatever, because, you know, if you don't deal with it, it could get much worse. You know, and the mental health of the worker, the mental health of the student athlete, yeah, it's all been brought to the forefront the past few years, which I think is a great thing, because there used to be a stigma that, you know what, we're not going to talk about it. That's your personal thing. You deal with it yourself. And that's where people got into problems. And I think now more people are, identifying with certain situations that, hey, you know what, maybe I need to talk to somebody, or maybe I need to take a step back, or you know what, maybe I just need a couple days to work on some things to myself. Those are things that, hopefully you have a relationship with your employer where you can go to them and say, you know what, I'm really struggling here, and the employer could probably help you too, maybe give you some advice, or, convince you to talk to somebody, things like that. The thing that I'm trying to get across is it's not anything to be ashamed of. It's not something that you should hide or whatever. It's something that if you recognize it, it needs to be dealt with. And I think in the long run, that would make everybody a little bit healthier, going through the process.
I think the first thing is that you just have to understand that although this is your career, it is not your whole life. You have to make time to take care of yourself. I am 100% guilty. I did not take care of myself at all getting my master's. So if you're anything like me, you're coming out and you're like, oh my goodness, I spent 2 years of my life doing nothing for myself. And then you come out and you don't know how to transition away from that. And then you start your new job and you want to be full force and on it and doing your work all the time. And you're going to do that, but you have to find some kind of outlet, whatever it is for you, and just go to it and commit to that as much as you commit to your job. Whether that's working out, maybe just cooking a meal. We have to get away from the mindset where athletic trainers are like, this is my life. I have no time to do anything for myself. So just make sure you know that this is about you. You want to be happy at work, so do something happy for yourself in your life. Just commit to you every day.
Are there any social media groups you are a part of to stay connected to the AT world?
Enjoy following some of the kind of physical therapy, exercise type stuff to get some ideas of stuff that I might not think of on my own. I really like the prehab guys. There are a couple, probably people are familiar with that, couple physical therapists that they just post really unique exercises that are not something that I like typically think of, and can kind of expand off of maybe one exercise that I've been doing, but make it a little more complex. And I've also found that following other universities, colleges, high schools pages, and just kind of seeing what they're doing kind of during this time as well has been really nice to see how they're reaching out to people virtually and still keeping people connected in their programs. And then we use Instagram and Twitter here at Virginia Tech. So it's been fun kind of coming up with some ideas of how we can post stuff on our social media to kind of get people involved with what we're doing here in sports medicine.
What's cool again over COVID is a couple ACC schools would like tag us in a challenge or, something like that. So it's a cool way to stay in touch. Obviously VATA YP would be a good one. I like the Women in Athletic Trainers. That's great. Just kind of female support. And they usually have a lot of really good topics that they bring up. You can also, ask questions, but that's a good one as well. But I would say, it's really just your preference, because there's a million out there. I know there's a Twitter account where it's just gruesome injuries. So, it just kind of can find your fit. But it's really cool to see how widespread we are.
So I'm still on a secondary athletic training page, which started when I was in the high school setting. And even though I'm not in a high school setting anymore, there's just so much information coming out from there. And it's not just applying to that setting. So I still get lots of different things on that. And then also the Women in Athletic Training page is fun because there's things that can help you with daily tasks and duties, but then there's also fun stuff like where's the best place to buy khakis and what kind of polos fit the best. And it's just little bits of information that help you feel connected to people who have been out there longer than you.
Each panelist left some final words of wisdom and advice to all of the new grads out there.
Grads. kind of surreal because I feel like I was just there. You know, I think the biggest thing is just knowing that you can do the job. I think that, you know, coming out, it's definitely stressful looking for a job, and then once you get into the job, I feel like sometimes you might second guess yourself or things like that. Biggest thing is you're not going to know everything. Like, even though just coming out of school, you're not going to know everything. Like, you're going to have failures, you're going to have successes, you know, and I think that's how you're going to learn the most. But you're not going to learn until you actually have to get into the job and do the job. But just know that, like, everything's going to be okay. That's my famous line. But everything's going to be okay. And, you know, you are good enough to do this profession, and that, like, anything that you put your mind to, you're going to be able to do. So, especially during the pandemic, it's definitely going to be hard, but, you know, all the new graduates and most of the programs are in the same situation, kind of just having to wait for sports to return. But, you know, just know that, you know, you can do this profession, and, you know, things could be a lot worse. You know what I mean? So you're a new graduate, and you should be excited to get into this profession. So you can do anything you put your mind to. So.
But if you are ever interested in the industrial setting, I think my contact information will be provided. I'd be happy to connect you with people within the network that I know, and then also, you know, there's Briotics, there's Select Medical. There's lots of different companies that are engaged in that setting, so I think that'd be a cool area to look into. And then also, like, think about doing these types of things, or just Zooming people, I guess. I don't know if that's the term or not, but do some face-to-face interviews with people right now that are willing to, maybe phone calls, and just ask them how they're doing, and ask them ways that you could be involved to help them, or they could help you. And then the last one, I said, put up your BOC certification and be proud of it. I don't know if enough of us do that. I know a lot of people do that, and it's really nice. It's framed. It looks good. So I think that's a good idea to make sure you do that as you start out on your journey as a new grad.
Give everything you got. There will be days where you go home and you're just like overwhelmed. It's normal. Reach out to somebody, whether it's your mom, whether it's your professor from undergrad. I know there's been many times where I've contacted, you know, Dr. Hand at USC or Dr. Mensch, been like, hey, you know, just checking in with people. We've all been there. Again, whether it's been 5 years, a year, 20 years, people were always, you know, people have been in your shoes. So don't be afraid to talk, reach out to people, and you'll do great. You'll get through it, and there's always people on your side. Just don't forget that.
I mean, starting out early in my career, I'm thankful for all the opportunities that I've had so far. I would just kind of encourage people to really find what's going to be the best fit for them, personally, socially, and professionally. I think one of the kind of questions that we had on here is like the work-life balance. I think that is really important in our profession, because you can find yourself, especially young in your career, that it's work, 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 and you don't leave any time for yourself. So I've kind of, over the past couple of years, kind of figured out what's going to be the best balance with that. And that would kind of be one of my biggest things, is I still need to remember that I need to have time for myself. So it is very important to focus on your career and be career driven. But at the end of the day, so at some point during the day, you need to be budgeting out some time just to focus on yourself.
I think with COVID, we can't not talk about that. There's a lot of questions. I would say any meeting that I've ever been in related to this, any webinar, any symposium, there's more questions than answers. So just trying to be patient, trying to be understanding. This is, I don't know how long, hopefully not too long, but this is going to be a big change for a while. So just trying to, stay patient, work on your mental health, making sure that you stay in a good place. And then usually my kind of biggest piece of advice is just treat the janitor like you do the CEO. Every single person that you come in contact with, obviously it goes without saying, just treat them how you want to be treated. but just, understand that a connection can come anywhere. And if you've been in this profession, even for a little bit, you know how huge that is. So try to enjoy it, even if this is your very first job coming up, or if you're still looking for a job. I mean, that's totally understandable. I have a brother that just graduated from college and he's struggling too. So you're not the only one. We're not the only profession. Better times are ahead, and just try to hang in there.
Just say, hang in there. There's an old saying, tough times don't last, tough people do. I think we're going to get through this. We don't know exactly what's at the other end of it, when things will essentially get back to what we refer to as normal. But, in the meantime, stay in touch with your contacts, your mentors. Maybe they could help you out, help you through this, give you some advice. Really, those are the important things. Keep your contacts up. You never know what's going to come your way. Be open to new challenges. Like I stated at the beginning, something might come your way that might not be what you envision yourself doing, but it might be something that you want to try out. So be open to it. It might not be the setting you want, but you never know. It might work out for you. I don't know how many times I've heard people say, well, I want to be in this setting. And then they try something new and they're like, wow, I really like that. I could see myself being in this setting. So, you just have to be open to things.
Easily beat down when I was a student, because it's a lot of hours, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of stress. And then you go into clinic and people have a set way and they're challenging you every single day. And I know how that feels. I've cried many tears from people beating me down, and that's okay. So it's okay that you feel low right now, but remember the reason that you got into this field. And I promise you, as soon as you get into a job, you're going to have that one athlete when you start to see that you changed their life for the better. And that's going to make all the difference in the world. And that will help you remember why you got into this field. Things are going to get so much better. Just think that after a day at clinic, when you have a great day and you're helping rehabs and you get to sit at practice and it's all fun, at the end of the day, you don't have to go home and study. That's going to be huge for you. You actually get to sleep. That's going to make you feel so much better when you actually get a good night of sleep. So you feel better. You're going to start doing things for you so that you feel better. There's so many things that are going to make you feel so much better that it's only up from here. You just had to get through the hard part, but you're finally at the finish line and now at the beginning or the starting line of your career, and it's going to be so worth it, and you're just going to have the time of your life.
I just wanted to say thank you to all of you for watching this video, and I hope you found all the information and advice useful. I also wanted to thank all the panelists for taking time out of their busy schedules to sit down for an interview. Thank you to the Virginia Young Professionals Committee for helping me conduct interviews and giving me a platform to get this information out there. Feel free to reach out to any of the Virginia Young Professional Committee members if you have any other questions or want to be connected to any of the panelists. Have a good night and stay safe, everybody. Thank you.